She said she was working late again. I said, "No problem. Have fun with your boss, sweetheart." Everyone at the office thought I was joking when I told them, but when she showed up an hour later, out of breath, shaking, and terrified, I knew the game had changed. Before we dive in, make sure you subscribe, hit like, and tell me in the comments what you would have done. Because trust me, this one gets dark. It started on a Thursday evening. I just come home from work, loosened my tie, and opened a cold beer. The house smelled like rosemary chicken, our Thursday night tradition. But my wife, Megan, wasn't home. Her car was still gone. No call, no text. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the empty plate I'd set for her. We'd been married for 10 years. Long enough for me to know her rhythms. When she got moody, when she needed space, when something was wrong. And lately, everything was wrong. She'd started taking calls outside on the porch. Her phone, once always lying face up on the counter, was now glued to her hand. Her tone had changed too. Short, careful, like she was performing every sentence for an audience I couldn't see. At 7:43 p.m., my phone buzzed. A single text, "Don't wait up tonight. Big project deadline." That was it. No heart emoji, no details, no apology. Just like that, our dinner plans vanished into thin air. But here's the thing. Megan was a marketing manager. Her big projects never kept her past 6 o'clock. And tonight, she'd been giddy all morning, humming in the kitchen, checking her phone every few minutes like a teenager waiting for a crush to reply. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the message. Then I typed 6 simple words that would blow her cover wide open. "Hope you and Eric enjoy dinner." Eric, her new coworker, the one she couldn't stop mentioning. The creative genius who really understood her ideas. The one whose name had started showing up on her lips like a reflex. I hit send and waited. 3 dots appeared instantly, then vanished, then reappeared. She was panicking. I pictured her standing somewhere she wasn't supposed to be, phone clutched tight, trying to figure out how much I knew. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. "Hey, honey," she said, voice high-pitched and nervous. "What's that supposed to mean, Eric?" "He's just on my team." "Sure," I said evenly. "I figured you two were grabbing a bite before your big project." Silence. Then a fake laugh. "Oh, no, nothing like that. We're all just working late here at the office." I could almost hear her eyes darting around, searching for an excuse. "The office," she said. But I'd been there before. Her company had no late-night team projects, no after-hours deadlines. After we hung up, I opened the Find My app on my laptop. We'd synced our phones years ago for emergencies. She'd forgotten that part. Her location? A fancy Italian restaurant downtown. La Fiorella. The same place I'd taken her for our anniversary 2 years earlier. That was the moment something inside me flipped. Not rage, not sadness. Clarity. I stared at the little blue dot pulsing on the map. Then I grabbed my jacket, locked the house, and got in the car. 20 minutes later, I parked across the street from the restaurant. Through the big front window, I could see her. Candlelight, wine glasses, that soft laugh she used to save for me. And across from her, Eric. Slick hair, blue suit, leaning in too close. She reached across the table and touched his hand. Smiling, glowing, like a woman who'd forgotten she was married. I didn't storm in. I didn't make a scene. I just watched. For 7 minutes. Long enough to see her lift her glass, toast to something I'd never know, and laugh again like the past decade hadn't happened. Then I took out my phone and snapped a photo. One picture. Perfect lighting. Perfect proof. I sent it to her with one caption. "Tell Eric I said cheers." I watched her face change as she read it. Her smile dying mid-laugh. Her fork clattering against the plate. She stood up so fast her chair fell backward. Eric looked confused. Then she grabbed her purse and bolted for the door. By the time she got home, I was sitting at the table again, beer half empty, the same plate of rosemary chicken gone cold in front of me. The front door flew open. "Mark, I can explain." I didn't say a word. Just looked at her with that kind of quiet that hurts worse than yelling. She froze, eyes wide, like she'd just realized I wasn't the same man she'd left 2 hours ago. And right then, she knew. Whatever story she told next wasn't going to save her. Megan stood in the doorway like a ghost, her coat half on, her hair messy from the wind. Her face was pale, eyes darting between me and the phone on the table where her own message still glowed. "Mark, please," she started, voice trembling. "It's not what you think." I took a slow sip of beer. Then what is it exactly? She blinked fast, like she hadn't expected me to be calm. We had a client dinner, last minute. I didn't have time to tell you. I looked at her. Client's name is Eric now. Her mouth opened, closed, then opened again, like a fish gasping for air. He's part of the project. He's my colleague. I saw you at La Fiorella, I said quietly. That's not your office. Her eyes went wide. You followed me? No, I said evenly. You shared your location. Remember? For emergencies. For a second, I thought she'd faint. She leaned against the wall, hand over her chest. Mark, it was just dinner. I swear. I nodded. Romantic candlelight, wine, and hand-holding dinner. Her lip quivered. You don't understand. Then help me, I said, voice still calm. Make me understand. She walked toward me, slow and hesitant, like approaching a wild animal. We've been arguing so much lately, she said softly. I just needed someone to talk to. Eric's been supportive. Supportive, I repeated. Is that what we're calling it now? She sighed, sat down across from me, and dropped her purse on the floor. Nothing happened, she whispered. It was innocent. I looked at the sauce stain on her sleeve and the faint smell of cologne that wasn't mine. Innocent, I repeated. Got it. For a while, neither of us spoke. The clock ticked on the wall, steady and cruel. Finally, I said, I'm not going to yell, Megan. I'm not going to fight. But I'm done being lied to. She reached for my hand. I didn't move. Please, she said, tears forming. You're overreacting. I almost laughed. You're right, I said. I probably should have waited until you checked into a hotel with him. Then maybe it would count as real evidence. Stop it, she whispered. It wasn't like that. I stood up. You said you were working. You were out with him. You lied. And that's enough for me. She followed me into the living room. I made a mistake, she said, voice cracking. But it's not what you think. He's been helping me with a side project. I turned to her. A side project? That what we're calling it now? Stop twisting everything. She snapped, the tears gone, replaced by anger. You've been distant for months. I needed someone who actually listens. So you picked Eric, I said. Congratulations. I walked past her toward the stairs. Mark, please, she said again, grabbing my arm. Don't walk away. I turned slowly. I'm not walking away, I said quietly. I'm stepping aside so you can go wherever it is you've been dying to go. She flinched, let go, and backed up. You don't mean that. I do, I said. Because right now, the only person who can fix this is you. And you're not even trying. I went upstairs, leaving her standing there, shaking. I could hear her crying softly below, pacing, whispering something I couldn't make out. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the house, every buzz of her phone, every muffled sob through the wall, it all felt like static in my head. Around midnight, I got up, walked to the window, and looked outside. Her car was still there, but the glow from her phone lit up the hallway under the door. She was texting someone. I didn't need to guess WHO at 2 a.m. I heard the front door open quietly. I walked halfway down the stairs and saw her silhouette on the porch, phone pressed to her ear. I can't talk now, she whispered. He's awake. No, he saw us. I don't know what to do. My pulse slowed, then steadied. I turned and went back upstairs. No shouting, no confrontation, just cold understanding. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened. She made coffee, smiled weakly, kissed me on the cheek. Morning, she said. Rough night. I looked at her, then at the phone she'd placed face down on the counter. Not as rough as yours is going to be, I thought. But I didn't say it. Not yet. I got dressed, grabbed my briefcase, and headed to work. But I didn't go to the office. Instead, I drove downtown to a small cafe across from her building. From there, I had a perfect view of the employee entrance. By 8:15, most of the staff had arrived. By 8:45, she still hadn't. At 9:10, a familiar car pulled up, a silver sedan. Eric's. She stepped out, same coat, same nervous laugh, and followed him inside. I sat there for another hour, finishing my coffee, replaying every moment of our marriage in my head. The birthdays, the road trips, the late-night talks about dreams and promises. All of it collapsing quietly under the weight of one truth. She'd chosen someone else, and she didn't even have the courage to admit it. When I finally drove home, the house felt different. Quieter, colder. I went to my office, opened my laptop, and created a new folder titled Proof. I uploaded the photo from La Fiorella, a screenshot of her location, and a recording from the porch camera that showed her sneaking back in the night before. Then I poured myself another beer, leaned back in the chair, and smiled for the first time in days. Because sometimes, revenge doesn't start with anger. It starts with preparation. Friday morning felt strangely calm. Megan moved through the house as if nothing had happened, humming while she buttered her toast, scrolling through her phone like the past 2 nights hadn't existed. I sat across from her, watching her movements, memorizing the lies. She wore new perfume again, something sharp and expensive. "You're quiet this morning," she said, not looking up. "Long week," I replied. "You?" "Same. Big meeting later. Might be home late again." I nodded slowly. "You work hard," I said. She smiled faintly, the kind of smile that used to mean something. I kissed her on the forehead before leaving and watched her in the mirror as I pulled out of the driveway. She waited until I turned the corner before grabbing her keys and rushing out the door that I followed her again, staying 2 cars behind. She didn't take the route to her office. Instead, she drove across town to a modern apartment complex with tall glass balconies and a small gym in the lobby. She parked in visitor parking and walked straight inside. Building 4, apartment C21. She didn't even look around. Confident. Familiar. Like she'd done it 100 times before. I sat there for almost an hour, watching the curtains of C21 shift slightly as shadows moved behind them. At 10:07, she came out, hair a little messy, jacket in her hand, phone to her ear. She laughed at something and walked toward her car. Then she drove off like nothing was wrong in her world. That was enough for me. I followed her back home, waited 10 minutes, and then walked inside quietly. She was in the kitchen unpacking groceries. "You're back early," she said, startled. "Forgot some files," I said. "You were out shopping?" "Yeah, just picked up a few things for dinner." She smiled again, forced, shaky. I nodded, walked upstairs, and sat in my office. I opened my email, attached the photos, screenshots, and timestamps I collected, and sent them to a private address. Backup. Insurance. Evidence. Later that night, she cooked her favorite dish, creamy pasta with shrimp. She poured 2 glasses of wine, setting one near me. "I feel like we haven't had a nice dinner in forever," she said softly. "Maybe we can just relax tonight." I looked at her across the table. "Sure," I said. "Let's relax." She smiled, relieved. She thought the storm had passed. She thought I'd forgotten. She even reached across the table and touched my hand. "I missed you," she whispered. I took a sip of wine and said nothing. When she went to the bathroom, her phone buzzed. I glanced at it. A message from E. It read, "Can't stop thinking about this morning." Then another, "You're amazing." My pulse stayed steady. I took a photo of the screen and put the phone back exactly where it was. She came out smiling again. "You okay?" she asked. "Never better," I said. That night, I pretended to sleep early. Around 11, I heard her whispering again. "No, he doesn't suspect anything," she said. "I think we're fine. Just a few more weeks." She laughed quietly. "You worry too much." A pause. "Yeah, I love you too." Then silence. I lay there staring at the ceiling, feeling nothing but clarity. Saturday morning, I had a plan. "Let's do something spontaneous," I said over breakfast. "A day trip. Maybe drive to the coast." She looked surprised but pleased. "Really? That sounds wonderful." "Great," I said. "But I need to grab some papers from your office first." "Insurance documents. Won't take long." Her fork froze halfway to her mouth. "My office? Yeah, I've never seen it. Thought it might be fun." She hesitated. "It's not really visitor-friendly." "Come on," I said lightly. "You've been there so much lately. I'm curious." She stared at me for a few seconds before forcing a laugh. "You're weird," she said. "But fine, if it's quick." When we got to her office building, the parking lot was half empty. She was tense, fingers drumming against the steering wheel. "I just remembered," she said quickly. "They're doing renovations. We can't go in." I pointed at the open door where a security guard stood chatting with a delivery guy. "Looks open to me." She swallowed hard. "They're strict about visitors." "That's okay," I said. "You're the employee." We walked toward the entrance. The guard smiled at her. "Morning, Mrs. Blake. Haven't seen you in a while." She froze. "A while," I repeated, looking at her. "Yes, sir," the guard said cheerfully. She switched to a 4-day schedule months ago. No Fridays for her since spring. I looked at Megan. Her face was white as paper. "Right," she said weakly. "That's right. I just, came to drop something off." I nodded slowly. Good to know, I said to the guard. Thanks for clearing that up. He smiled, unaware of the silent explosion happening between us that we walked back to the car in silence. She gripped the wheel, staring straight ahead. I can explain, she said finally. You've been saying that for days, I said quietly. And every time, it gets worse. Please, Mark, she whispered, eyes glistening. I didn't mean for it to go this far. But it did, I said. You lied about work, about dinners, about everything. Who are you, Megan? She shook her head. I don't know anymore. That's the first honest thing you've said. I replied that we drove home without another word. She went straight upstairs while I sat in the living room, staring at the framed photo of our wedding day on the mantel. Two people smiling, unaware of the cracks already forming beneath them. 10 years of trust, undone by a few lies and a man in a blue suit. That night, she didn't come down for dinner. I heard her moving around upstairs, drawers opening and closing, the faint rustle of luggage. She was packing. When she finally came down, suitcase in hand, she stopped at the bottom of the stairs. I'm sorry, she said softly. I made a terrible mistake. You did, I said. But at least now we both know who we're really married to. She looked at me, waiting for something, anger, forgiveness, anything. But all she saw was emptiness. She wiped her tears, whispered goodbye, and walked out the door. I didn't follow. I didn't call. I just sat there in the quiet, feeling the weight of 10 years lift off my shoulders. The next morning, I called a lawyer. Because sometimes, the cleanest revenge isn't loud. It's legal, quiet, and final. 2 weeks passed before I saw her again. The papers were ready, my lawyer was efficient, and my signature felt lighter than I expected. When the envelope hit the table between us at the mediation office, she flinched like I'd thrown something sharp. You're really doing this, she whispered. I leaned back in my chair, calm and collected. You already did, I said. I'm just finishing it. Her eyes were red, her makeup gone, her confidence drained. She looked like someone who'd aged 10 years in 2 weeks. I thought you might give me another chance, she said softly. To do what? Lie better? She shook her head. I was confused. No, I said. You were entertained. There's a difference. We signed everything in silence. No shouting, no begging, just the sound of paper sliding across the table and the faint scratch of pens. When it was over, she tried to reach for my hand. Mark, I know I ruined everything, but please don't hate me. I don't hate you, I said. I just don't know you anymore. She looked away, tears falling onto the folder between us. He's not even talking to me anymore, she said. Eric. He stopped answering my calls. Shocking, I said quietly. Almost like cheaters don't make great partners. That evening, when I got home, I walked through the house and noticed how empty it felt, but it wasn't sadness I felt. It was freedom. I opened the windows, let the cool air in, and for the first time in months, I slept without waking up in the middle of the night. The next morning, I went for a run, cooked breakfast, and realized I could breathe again. No phone buzzing, no lies, no pretending. Just silence and peace. Weeks turned into months. I focused on work, took on new clients, joined a gym. People started to notice. You look different, they'd say. Happier. I was. I'd lost weight, gained muscle, started reading again. Every Thursday night, I cooked the same rosemary chicken I used to make for her, but now it tasted like victory instead of routine. My world had shrunk, but it was clean, controlled, honest. Then one night, around 6 months later, I got a message from an unknown number. Please, it's me. Can we talk? I stared at it for a minute, then typed back. No, the reply came instantly. I'm sorry for everything. I lost my job. I lost him. I lost everything. I typed, you lost what you threw away. Then I blocked the number. A week later, she showed up at my door. I saw her through the glass before she rang the bell. Hair unwashed, coat wrinkled, holding a small suitcase. I didn't open. She knocked again. Mark, please, she said. I don't have anywhere else to go. I turned off the porch light. She kept talking through the door. He left me the same week I moved out. He said he never wanted anything serious. I thought he loved me. I thought. Her voice broke. I know I don't deserve you, but I can't keep living like this. Please just let me explain. I stayed silent. Eventually, she sat down on the steps, crying softly. I could hear her through the wood. You were right, she said. Everything you said that night, you were right. I destroyed the best thing I ever had. I waited until she stopped talking, then I whispered to myself, "And now you understand." She left after an hour. I watched her car disappear down the street and felt nothing but quiet satisfaction. The next morning, her mother called. "Mark, she's in the hospital," she said through tears. "A breakdown. She hasn't been eating, hasn't been sleeping. She keeps asking for you." I took a deep breath. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, "but I can't help her anymore." "You loved her once," her mother said. "Doesn't that mean something?" "It means I learned my lesson," I replied. "And that lesson was expensive." I hung up. That afternoon, I had coffee with someone from my hiking group, a woman named Claire. She was funny, kind, had a calm energy that made me feel grounded. She'd been through her own divorce years earlier, understood the quiet wreckage people hide behind smiles. We talked for hours, laughed easily. When I drove home later, I realized something. I hadn't thought about Megan once the entire time. Over the next few months, life got brighter. I repainted the house, sold the old furniture, and turned Megan's office into a reading room. I traveled for work, bought a new car, started a small side business. Every trace of that old life disappeared, piece by piece. Sometimes I'd get curious and check social media. Megan's profiles were gone. Friends said she'd moved back with her parents, trying to start over. Maybe she did. But I never checked again. One evening, as the sun set outside my kitchen window, I poured a glass of wine and looked at the photo wall I'd rebuilt. No wedding pictures, no reminders of her, just landscapes, family, and friends. For the first time in years, everything felt exactly right. That I thought about that night at La Fiorella, the message that started it all, and how it could have gone differently if I'd ignored the signs. But I didn't. I listened to the silence between her words, and it saved me. People think revenge is loud, fiery, dramatic. They're wrong. The best revenge is calm. It's waking up every morning without pain, without doubt, without pretending. It's peace. And that's what I chose. So if you're still here, listening to my story, take this from me. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all. Don't chase. Don't beg. Don't argue. Just stand still, let the truth reveal itself, and walk away with your head high. Because people who betray you once will do it again, but people who walk away never need to look back. If you like this story, make sure you subscribe, leave a like, and tell me in the comments what you would have done in my place. And remember, silence, when used right, is the loudest revenge of all.